My name is Michaela Bowen, and for my senior STEM capstone project, I applied machine learning algorithms for classification using breast cancer data. This is my abstract, which just gives a brief overview of my project. I saw machine learning algorithms being utilized in a variety of settings, and so I really wanted to see how those machine learning algorithms worked. So my research question was, will one machine learning algorithm have more accuracy in predicting breast cancer than the others? And I hypothesized that there would be a difference, but I did not know exactly what difference that would be. So my independent variable was my breast cancer data, and my dependent variable was that prediction of malignant and benign tumors. And I utilized a computer, the program I designed, an integrated development environment for Python, which allowed me to code machine learning algorithms and breast cancer data. So as for my procedure, so the first thing I had to do was develop that computer program that utilized machine learning algorithms. And then I needed to be able to import that breast cancer data. And then what I did was create a validation training set, which made 80% of it used for teaching those machine learning algorithms, and then 20% for that verification. And I utilized 7 different models: logistic regression, k-nearest neighbor, support vector machine, linear classifier, support vector machine RBF classifier, Gaussian naive Bayes, decision tree classifier, and the random forest classifier. And I'll explain how those work a little bit later in this presentation. And then afterwards I evaluated and compared the results of my different machine learning algorithms to select the most accurate model. So this right here is a heat map, and the data set that I used had more than 500 instances and 32 different attributes. And what this does is sort of show a correlation between the features of breast cancer, as the lighter spots are the more correlated and the darker spots is less correlated. And this is important to note because what I was trying to do with my machine learning algorithms is teach them to recognize that correlation to make predictions about breast cancer. And when we look at it, we see a huge map with lots of colors, and it's really hard to discern what any of it means. And the point of this is really to show how complex this data set is and why we need machine learning algorithms to be able to see holistically all of that correlation. So the program that I created runs in Python, and it applies these machine learning algorithms to that breast cancer data set. And that breast cancer data set is pre-gathered from a Wisconsin data source that is specifically designed to train learning algorithms. And so the algorithm then uses those 32 attributes that define that data set to find the correlations between all of those attributes and try to learn how to predict breast cancer. So to go into a little bit of detail on what are those algorithms, these graphics show is sort of that difference on how each of those machine learning algorithms work. And these are just computer generated data sets, so there's not a lot of points here, but I think it gives a really great visual to really see how those machine learning algorithms are working and to sort of see that difference, that even though they're all making predictions, they're all functioning differently because they were designed to look for different types of patterns and analyze data differently. And then on the right side, you can see that with the light blue and orange points, that is actually the data set that I used, comparing just 2 attributes. And I think it's important to point out as well because all of these diagrams show how those machine learning algorithms are working. That similar way that they are being applied will be applied to my data set. So you can see that there's definitely a division between the benign and malignant tumors. And so what we're trying to teach that machine learning algorithm is to figure out that divide without telling it. I tested the 7 algorithms and looked at their training and testing accuracy. And what I found was that the third model, which was the support vector machine RBF classifier, was the most accurate in its testing accuracy with a 98.25% accuracy. And comparatively, the worst algorithm was the fourth one, which was the Gaussian naive Bayes, which only had a 91.23% testing accuracy. And so you can see that they definitely are differences in the accuracy of those algorithms. But I think it's also important to note these true and false, negative and positives. And so what true and false, negative, and positives are is they look at the types of mistakes that the machine learning algorithms are making. And the false negatives means the algorithm said that it was not negative, but it actually was. And the same with the false positive, the algorithm said that it was positive when it actually wasn't. And this is especially important to note when we're looking at breast cancer data because we don't want to give someone a false negative or positive. And that's why I highlighted this one over here, which is the false negative of Model 2. It actually had the lowest amount of false negatives, which is very good. And then here's just another graphic to sort of show that difference between the training and testing accuracy between each model. To look at some of those model predictions. So, as I stated earlier, our fourth model was the least accurate and our third model was the most accurate. And so, there were 10 errors compared to 2. So, this top line on both of them is what the machine learning algorithm predicted the data would be. And then this bottom one is what it actually was. I think this is really important to note, sort of, that they're not necessarily making the same decisions. So the results, as I stated, the support vector machine RBF classifier was the best in the testing accuracy. So in conclusion, the certain machine learning algorithms are more accurate than others, depending on what data is actually being used. And additionally, as I point out, is although these algorithms had similar accuracy, they're all working differently, as we saw in that confusion matrix of true and false negatives and positives. And I think that that's important to note, especially when you're trying to apply it to different types of data set, that just because the support vector machine was working successfully now doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be the most successful in a different instance. So some of the next steps. So this project used a very small data set, only 500 instances, and in the grand scheme of data science, that's really small. And so I think that the next step would be apply it on an even larger data set. And machine learning algorithms are super important in today's world because of all that big data. And although we have a ton of data experts out there, we're just creating so much data at such a rapid rate that it's hard to analyze that all effectively and efficiently. And it's really important to be able to utilize these technological advances. And then as for like sort of the next steps, I think that either I could expand on my program to make it more efficient and effective, but I also believe that other students could as well utilize my program as sort of a starting point or reference to create their own machine learning algorithms. And then here are my references, which I utilize to kind of understand how to create that program. Thank you again for watching my capstone video.